Hello guys and welcome to today's session. Today we are going to talk about PKCS. Okay, all right, then let's just get started and see what's in the agenda today. So as always, we are going to first start with the what, as in what exactly PKCS is and where exactly can it be used. Then we'll talk about when and why to use it, as in what exactly are we trying to achieve by deploying a PKCS certificate. Then we'll take a moment and we'll talk about the differences between PKCS and Scape infrastructure wise, as in what exactly is the different requirement in configuration of a PKCS, which is lightweight, as compared to his big brother Scape, which is a big heavyweight. Then we'll be talking about an end-to-end flow of a PKCS cert, as in right from the point wherein the Intune admin is creating a profile in the Intune portal to the point wherein the end user is able to see the PKCS cert in his device. We are going to see what exactly happens at the background. Then we will be talking about how exactly we are supposed to make a PKCS profile from the portal, from the Visa console of the Azure portal. And then we'll be talking about what exactly needs to be configured on-prem to make the PKCS deployment work. Then I have collected a few logs which I'll be trying to show you guys, that in case the deployment is not going through, what exactly are we supposed to look in the logs, or if the deployment is going through fine, then what is the expected behavior, what exactly are we supposed to see and find in the logs. So I'll be sharing all the logs, right from company portal to Intune service connector to all the logs there are out there wherein this can be tracked. Okay, and then I'll be doing a live demo wherein I will be creating a new profile and then configuring my on-prem infra and then enrolling my device and showing that the certificate is getting deployed successfully to all the three OS, Android, iOS, and Windows. And then I'll be sharing a few tips and tricks so that which we can keep in mind and which would help us in a successful deployment of PKCS. Okay. All right, then let's just jump right into it. Let's just talk about what is PFX. So I know guys that this might, let me start with this. I know that it might be a little confusing that sometimes people refer, or maybe I refer to it using PFX, and sometimes I refer to it as PKCS. So these are actually interchangeable. So earlier the verbiage that was used was PKCS 12. Now we are referring to it as PFX, but both are interchangeable. Therefore, you might come across PKCS 12 or just PKCS or a PFX. So in the Intune portal, you might see PKCS profile when you're deploying a profile, but in the documentation, you might see the verbiage used as PFX. So just keep this in mind that both are interchangeable. Initially, it was PKCS 12, which was a closed standard, I believe, that was developed by Microsoft. Now we are referring to it as a PFX, which is an improved version, and I believe now it's an open standard. Okay, so just keep that in mind and don't get confused with the verbiage. Now let's just talk about what exactly is a PFX or a PKCS or a PKCS 12. So this is, as we all know, is a certificate, and we can call it a bag of properties, as in this certificate can contain a lot of information. Two information which it is for sure going to contain is the public and the private key. So that is a mandate. A PKCS or a PFX certificate is always going to contain the public and the private key. Other than that, it might contain some other information, it might not, depending upon the configuration. And it is actually and eventually going to help us prove our identity. Okay, so I know that there might be a little confusion between the .pfx and .cer format. So let me just lay it out clearly that a PFX format includes both the public and the private key for the associated certificate. And obviously, if it's including the private key, then it goes without saying that it's very, very important and it should not be shared outside our organization, right? And PFX can be used for TLS as well as SSL on website. It can be used for digitally signing the messages like for SMIME, or for authorization of token or for authentication. On the other hand, .cer file contains only the public key, and which is usually shared with everybody, and it can be used to verify tokens or for client authentication, and it can be used for SSL handshake. So I also want you guys to keep one thing in mind, that I'm not going to go very deep into what a PFX certificate is and when exactly to use it, and whether we should use it or not, and what exactly is .cer and when to use it, and where exactly should it be used. I'm just going to give you a basic overview, because from Intune's point of view, first comes the first the CA has to make that determination. Your CA admin, your certification authority admin, first they have to make that determination whether to use PFX or whether to use Scape. Once they have taken that decision, then it is up to the Intune admin to deploy the PFX or deploy the Scape profile as per the need. So I would suggest that before you actually go down that road and decide whether to go with PFX or whether to go with Scape, get in touch with your CA admin, see exactly what they are trying to achieve with the certificate that they want to be delivered to their end users. Have that discussion, and then once that has been sorted out, then we can go ahead and do a PFX deployment from Intune. Okay, so this is just a basic overview of what exactly PKCS is or PFX is. Okay, now let's just talk about what exactly we can do with a PKCS certificate. What exactly are we trying to achieve? Okay, this is something which we might keep in mind while taking that decision, that whether to go with a PKCS deployment or whether to go with a Scape deployment. So PKCS certificate can be used for mail encryption, that is SMIME. So if a certificate, so how exactly as this works is, let's just say user A is sending an email to user B. So both use, and that email is going to be encrypted with the certificate. We call that that SMIME deployment. So only that user is going to be able to read the email which A has sent, who has the certificate to decrypt it. So in a way, the email is going to be encrypted with the certificate, and only that person can read the content of the email who has the certificate to decrypt it. Okay, it can be used for VPN. So when we are making a VPN profile in Intune portal as well, we have the option of linking that VPN profile with a certificate. Therefore, that VPN connection is going to be secured, and the certificate is going to be used for that VPN connection. It can be used for authenticating with Wi-Fi. So if we are deploying a PKCS certificate, and if the connection to Wi-Fi that has been configured by our network admin is not a manual connection, that is, we are not authenticating by entering a normal username and password, and if the authentication mechanism is set to certificates, then this PKCS certificate can be used for authentication to Wi-Fi. And goes without saying, if it's doing that, then it is helping the users prove their identity. So therefore, it can be used for user authentication, as well as the PKCS certificate can be used for client authentication. So server authentication. So these are the main areas wherein we can use a PKCS certificate, and what we need to keep in mind if we are trying to achieve any of these. If the end goal is the corporate user should be able to connect to the Wi-Fi seamlessly, or connect to VPN, or encrypt their email, or prove their identity, or server has to prove his identity, then in that case we can make use of a PKCS certificate by deploying a PKCS profile, and it would meet our end goal. Okay, all right, so moving right along, when and why to use it. So let's just talk about from the infra point of view. We will go into the detail of that later in the later slides. But from the infra point of view, for a PKCS deployment versus a Scape deployment, so versus a SCEP versus a Scape deployment, we will be needing an on-prem CA, which we need in case of Scape as well. We will be needing an Intune certificate connector, which we need in case of Scape as well. We will be needing obviously Intune deployment, as in making a profile from the Intune Ibiza console, which we need in case of Scape as well. And we won't be needing a lot of other components which we need in case of Scape. So PKCS is the usage of the on-prem infra, the Intune certificate connector, which is a connector which we install in one of the servers, which does the connection between Intune and your on-prem, and obviously Intune portal, minus many components which we would ordinarily use in case of Scape deployment. These components, I am going to come to that in the next slide, wherein I'm going to talk about what components are not needed in PKCS versus Scape. So one of the things that usually users keep in mind while deploying a PKCS is PKCS, as I said, is lightweight. So in case of PKCS, a user, I mean, when you're trying to take that decision whether to go with PKCS or Scape, this is one of the important things which I would suggest you to keep in mind. If you can't have an on-premise internet-facing server that runs the EndS role, as in, if you're deploying Scape, you need to have a server which is present in your intranet but has connection to the internet as well, that is public facing, and that is the point of contact which talks between your CA and your internet. So in case of Scape, so over here we have SCE, I'm sorry for my handwriting, guys. So over here we have Scape, and in Scape, let's just say we have over here, this is the Intune. Okay, so Intune is going to talk with the on-prem server. Let's just this is the EndS server, NDES. Okay, so Intune is going to talk with the EndS server, and then the EndS server is going to talk with the CA. Okay, and this is your intranet, this is your internet, and this is your intranet. Okay, INTRA. Okay, so this is the on-prem world, this is the internet world. So the communication between the Intune portal and your intranet happens via this EndS connector, happens via this EndS server. So you can use Windows Server, I mean 2012, 2016, or maybe 2019 if you have access to that. So in the server manager, you have to install this role, this EndS role, and it kind of acts as a mediator between the Intune portal and your CA. However, in case of, and this is for a Scape deployment. However, in case of PKCS, things are different. In case of PKCS, if we don't have that ability of setting up that added EndS server and exposing it to the internet, however, we still want to make deployment of certificates to end users and have them authenticated via your internal. So we still the requirement is that our internal CA should be able to issue certificates to mobile devices. Now the challenge here is, our mobile devices are not connected to the domain, right? They are on the internet, but our CA is in the intranet, it's connected to the domain. So the challenge is we have to move the certificate from our CA from in the intranet to the mobile devices in the internet without having a server which has connectivity to both internet as well as intranet, without having a server role, right? So if that is the requirement, then the recommendation is going ahead with the PKCS deployment. The PKCS deployment can deploy almost each and everything that we need to via a skip deployment. So it can almost help us achieve each and everything. Okay. There are some differences which we'll talk about later. So now let's just talk about what is the difference between PKCS and Scape. I know that one of the difference that we have established until now is in case of Scape, we need an added server called an EndS server, onto which we have to install an added role from the server manager called the EndS role, and that server needs to have visibility to the internet as well as the intranet. Now let's just talk about the other differences between Scape and PKCS. So as I said, in case of PKCS, we don't need an EndS server. For the deployment of a PKCS profile, we don't need any trusted profile. So when we are making a Scape profile, it actually needs to be linked with a trusted root profile. We will see that in the portal when we are actually doing the deployment. However, for a PKCS deployment, it does not need, we don't need to link it with a trusted root profile. Okay. In PKCS, no app proxy is needed. However, in case of Scape, a app proxy is needed. There is no public endpoint, as in there is no EndS server which is public facing, and we don't need an IIS role. So let's just talk about this app proxy thing in very short. So app proxy is like, as I said, your internal CA is the one that is issuing the certificates, right? So and issuing the certificates to the end devices, right? So the end devices in a way need to connect to the internal CA, but however, the CA is in your intranet, as I said before, and your mobile devices are in the internet. Therefore, there is no way the mobile devices can talk to the CA. So they talk to the CA via the EndS. Now, the EndS has access to the internet, but the end devices directly cannot talk to the EndS as well. So what we do is, let's just say that I won't go to the depth of this because for that I have a separate Nugget on Scape, but let me just give you a basic overview. So let's just say that there is the EndS and it is connected to the CA. Okay. So the EndS actually has two URLs. One is the internal and one is the external. Okay. So this internal URL, actually the EndS, let me correct my statement. The EndS has actually only one URL, that is the internal URL. Okay. And we use a proxy, and using that proxy, we publish this to the internet. And if we are making use of something called Azure App Proxy, then that Azure App Proxy is going to provide us an external URL. Okay. That external URL is publicly available and the end devices connect to that external URL. So the flow is the devices connect to that external URL and go to the Azure App Proxy, AAP. So the devices will be connecting to the external URL and going to the Azure App Proxy. Azure App Proxy is a proxy which is going to route all the requests from the external URL to the internal URL. From the internal URL, the EndS is going to fetch that request and go to the CA. So what I'm trying to say is, for a Scape setup, we need an Azure App Proxy. But for a PKCS setup, we don't need an EndS. We don't need an Azure App Proxy. We don't need the IIS role in the EndS server. and we don't need a public endpoint. So EndS has to be exposed to the public, but in case of PKCS, we don't. Okay, all right. So in case of PKCS, the device does not talk to any of the servers. The device will not talk to the Azure App Proxy, or the device will not talk to the EndS, or the device will not talk to the CA. The device is only going to talk to the Intune service, and Intune service is going to work as a mediator. In case of PKCS, the same certificate can be distributed to multiple devices of the same user. So if the same user is enrolling multiple devices with the same UPN, then the same certificate can be distributed to multiple devices. In case of PKCS, the MDM server is the one which generates the private key and the certificate on behalf of the mobile device, and then deploys it to the mobile device. We will talk about this when we are actually looking at the flow. And it has a smaller footprint. In case of Scape, obviously it has a bigger footprint because we need the Azure App Proxy, we need the EndS server, the EndS role, and the IIS. So that's there. So that's something which we need to keep in mind while making the deployment. Okay. In case of Scape, the private key never leaves the device, therefore it's more secure. However, in case of PKCS, both the private as well as the public key travels with the cert. Okay. In this, we need the EndS server, the IIS, a public endpoint. We need an added role, the server role. And in case of Scape, the mobile device generates the private and the public key. In this case, the mobile device was not directly doing that. Intune service was doing it Intune service was doing it on behalf of the mobile device. Okay. And in case of Scape, a unique key and certificate is generated on every device, even if the same user is doing the enrollment. Therefore, therefore, if we want to revoke a certificate from just one particular device, in case of Scape, that is possible. Okay, so now let's just talk about the flow. So let me just open up. Let me just do this. Let me just open a notepad. Okay. All right, now let me just try to explain the flow here, guys. All right, I think I can do it over. I think I can do it like this. Okay. All right, let's do this. Okay, so we have the mobile device. I'm talking about the flow, as in what happens from the beginning till the end. Okay, so this is our mobile device. Okay, and somewhere in the cloud we have the Intune service. Okay, and this is the internet part. Okay, which is present in the internet. And this is on the right hand side is the intranet part, wherein we have the CA. So this is our CA, and we have another server. It can be the same server as the CA, or it can be another server which has the Intune connector installed. So there is a connector which we need to install. It can be installed on the CA itself, or it can be installed on another server called the Intune connector. Okay, so now let's just talk about the flow. This is INTRA. This is the intra, and this is the internet. Okay, INTER. Okay, all right, now let's just track the flow. The first thing that is going to happen is, number one, the first thing that is going to happen is that the admin is going to create a profile on the ADM. Okay, I know my handwriting is terrible in this. The admin is going to create a profile in the Intune service. So what the admin would ideally be doing is he will go to the Ibiza console, and over there he is going to make a Scape profile or a PKCS profile. In this case, he is going to make a PKCS profile and he's going to deploy it to a user. Let's just say that he has deployed it to a user, and who he has deployed it to a user for Android devices. Okay, Android or iOS. Okay. So the first thing that happens is that the admin makes a profile on the Intune service. Okay. The second thing that happens is, obviously that profile, whenever the next sync happens or whenever the user enrolls the device, that profile is going to go to the device. Okay. That profile is going to travel to the device. So now that profile is present in the device and all the information that we have configured in the profile is there, and it has reached the Android or the iOS device. Okay, but this device, when it receives the profile, it has got no idea what to do with it now, because in case of a Scape profile, the Azure app proxy URL is there, right? So the device actually hits that app proxy URL. But in the PKCS profile, when we will be making a PKCS profile, the only information that is there in the PKCS profile is the name of the CA server, which is present on-prem, the name of the certificate template, that is again configured on-prem, and few other parameters. And this device has no way of going all the way to the CA, right? Because it's present in the internet and it's present in the intranet, right? So the device has got no idea what to do with that profile. So that device is now going to go back to the Intune service and going to ask for help. The device is going to say that, hey, I've received this profile from you, but I've got no idea what to do with it. I have no idea how to proceed. Now the Intune service on the fourth step is going to act as the middleman. It's going to say that, okay, don't worry, bro. I've got it. I've got you covered. I'm going to take it up from here and I am going to get you what you need. So this profile, the PKCS profile, which the admin made, was supposed to get this device a PKCS certificate. So the Intune service says that, okay, I will take it up from here. I will do all the processing on your behalf and I will get you a PKCS certificate. Okay. So it's going to act as the middleman, and the Intune service is now going to fetch that profile and going to talk to the on-prem server which has the Intune connector installed in it. So the Intune service already knows which server this is, because in the Intune service, when we go into device configuration over there, that entry is made. So whenever we install the Intune connector on-prem, there is an entry made in the Intune service that this is where the Intune connector lies. So the Intune service is going to go and fetch that information from its database and find out where exactly the Intune connector is. And the Intune service now, on behalf of this device, is going to go to the Intune connector with this information. So it's going to go to the Intune connector with the name of the user or whatever was there in this information. It might contain like the name of the user and whatever was configured in this profile. So this profile is ideally going to contain the name of the CA server, the friendly name of the CA server, the name of the template, and the expiration of the template, and the validity of the template, and a few other information. So the Intune service is going to fetch all these information from the profile which has been assigned to this user, and it's going to grab this profile, take all this information, and going to go to the Intune connector. The Intune connector is now going to look for a CA with the name that has been configured over here. So it is incumbent that we make sure that all this information in the profile that we are configuring over here is correct and is correct to the word. Like the name of the CA has to be very correct, the friendly name as well as the FQDN as well as the name of the template. So the Intune connector takes the name of the CA and the name of the template and tries to find a CA with that name. And in that CA, it tries to find a template with that name. So the Intune connector sends the request to the CA if it's able to find one with the name, and the CA will be looking for a template with the name which was configured in the portal. If the CA is able to find a template, then the CA is going to issue a certificate on the basis of the username, on the basis of the template, on the basis of the expiry. So on the basis of how this portal was, how the profile was configured, and on the basis of what information Intune service gave to the Intune connector, the CA is going to create a certificate with all these information and pass it to the Intune connector. So this is going to be 5, this is going to be 6. Okay, so now the certificate which has the name of the end user who has enrolled this device, which has this name, has been issued by the CA, and it has been sent to the Intune connector. The Intune connector on step 7 is now going to send it to the Intune service. So the Intune service now has a certificate which was issued to this user by this CA against this template with this expiration. It has been now uploaded to the Intune portal, and the Intune portal is now going to deploy it to the end user. That is going to be the steps 8. So the end device is now going to get that certificate. The certificate is going to get installed, and the device is now going to report back to the portal in step 9 and say that, hey, I've got the certificate. You can mark this deployment as succeeded. So the Intune portal is now going to mark the deployment as succeeded. So this is actually the entire flow of what exactly happens in the background. First, the admin makes a deployment in the Intune service. He will deploy it to a user group or security group. When that device is enrolled, the profile is going to come down, and the device is going to get that profile. However, the device has no idea what to do with it. Therefore, in step 3, the device talks back to the Intune service and says that please help me out. Now the Intune service is going to work as a middleman in step 4, wherein it takes up the responsibility of getting the device a cert. So in step 4, it is going to talk to the Intune connector, which it already has that information in its database when the Intune connector was installed. So it's going to fetch that information and going to send a request to the Intune connector. And that request is going to contain everything that was configured in the profile that was deployed to the user. Therefore, it's going to contain the name of the CA from wherein the certificate is needed, the template name against which the certificate is need to be issued. It's going to contain the friendly name of the CA. It's going to contain the expiry, the renewal period, and many other information, right? So that information goes to the Intune service, Intune connector. The Intune connector then forwards it to the CA with that name, and the CA tries to identify a certificate template with that name. So we need to keep in mind that if the CA name is incorrect, or even if the CA's name is correct, but if there is no certificate template with that name, this process is just going to break apart. However, if things check out, then CA is going to issue a certificate on the basis of whatever configuration was there in the profile. The certificate then travels from Intune connector to the Intune portal under step 7, and then the Intune portal delivers it to the device. The device then installs the certificate and then reports back. Okay. So let's just talk. This is just I've just written it down. The administrator creates the profile. The profile reaches to the device, but the device has no idea what to do with it. The device will reach back to the Intune service. The Intune service will fetch the configuration from the PKCS profile that is assigned to the user, connect to the on-prem Intune service connector, and request a certificate on the device's behalf. So this is wherein the Intune service the Intune service is acting as the middleman. The request from the connector will go to the CA, which the request is going to contain all the information of the config, as in the subject name, the subject alternative name. We will see all of that, what this configuration is all about. Okay. The CA will make use of the template and issue a certificate to the user, which will go back to the Intune connector. The Intune connector will upload the certificate to the portal. The portal will push it to the device. Once the device has that certificate, it will now be installed on the Intune service. Okay. So that is going to be the flow that we are, and this is exactly how we are going to track it. Okay. So now let's just talk about what are the information needed when we are going to make a deployment of a PKCS profile from the Intune portal. So as I said that in the Intune, the step one is that the admin creates a PKCS profile. So how exactly is this profile created? What information is needed? We will see this in demo as well. So when we are making a profile, obviously the prerequisite is the profile needs to have a name, goes without saying, and a description and an assignment to a user. What it also needs is the FQDN of the CA. Obviously, because when the request goes to the Intune connector is going to look for a CA. Okay. It also needs a name of the template against which the certificate is going to be issued. So even if the request goes to the CA, we don't know what kind of certificate is needed, right? And the kind of certificate that is going to be issued would depend upon the kind of template that was used to issue that certificate. So the name of the template is going to be there in that profile as well. One more thing that is going to be there is the friendly name of the CA. So during the demo, I'm actually going to show you how exactly and where exactly to find out the friendly name of the CA. When we are making the profile, we also have to mention the subject name and the subject alternative name, as in to whom the certificate is going to be issued. Is it going to be issued to Saurav, or is it going to be issued to saurav@nuggetlabs.onmicrosoft.com, as in just the first name, or just the UPN, or the first name and the email address, or to whom exactly the certificate is going to be issued to. The validity of the certificate, the renewal period, as in after how much of time. Let's just say that the validity is 1 year and the renewal period is 20%. So at the 20% mark of a year, the certificate is going to be renewed, and this is going to be how exactly the CA has been configured as well. I mean, what is the threshold value for a CA issuing its certificate? Just need to keep one thing in mind, that if we are making a PKCS deployment for an Android device, we need to deploy a trusted root profile and link that trusted root profile to the PKCS profile. However, if we are deploying a profile to iOS or Windows, the trusted root is not required. For a deployment, for chain building it might be, but for deployment it's not. However, in case of Android, a trusted root profile is needed, and when we are making the PKCS profile, it is linked with the trusted root profile. Okay. And when we are making a Windows deployment, when we are making a PKCS deployment to Windows, we can actually choose that on which store the profile, the certificate is going to land, and as in which store the certificate is going to be saved. So we will see this in live action. Now let's just talk about the configuration that needs to be made on-prem so that the CA is able to issue the certificate. The first thing that needs to be done is, obviously, we need to install the Intune connector. So when we are installing the Intune connector, we have got to, so the same connector is used for PKCS deployment or for Scape deployment. Okay. So when we are installing the Intune connector, it's going to give us the option of whether we want to use the PFX option or whether we want to use the Scape option. So we can choose the PFX option in this case. Once we have installed the PFX or the Intune connector, then we have to establish that channel between the Intune connector and the Azure portal. So as I said that once the Intune connector is installed and the connection is established, an entry is made in the Intune's database, and that's how Intune service knows where exactly the connector is installed. So to make that connection, we have to log in to the Intune connector using a credential from the Azure. Okay. So uh, once we log in with that connection, once we log in, that connection is established. Okay. And then we have to go to the CA, and over there we have to make a template. Against that template the certificates are going to be issued. So we have to make sure that that template has all the parameters which is needed as per our requirement, and we are duplicating the template well. And as I said that the Intune service connector is going to the CA and requesting for a certificate. So when it does that, uh, there is an account which is used. So that account needs to have access to the template which is going to issue the certificate. So we will see about that. And then that permission is one thing which we need to keep in mind. And then the certificate template which we have made against which the CA is going to issue the certs, that needs to be published. Only after the certificate is published is when it is able to issue certificates. Okay, then that is when it can be made use of. So we need to publish the certificates and publish the profile, and then once it has been published, it can be made use of. Just one more thing, once we have installed the Intune connector on one of the servers, and once we have done these steps, once we have installed it, configured all the accounts, once we have duplicated the template, one thing which we need to check is in the server wherein we have installed the Intune connector, we need to go to this location and make sure that the EndS plugin DLL is showing up. So this is needed to make sure that the Intune connector was successful. Once it is showing up, we can go back to the Intune portal, and over there we can see that the Intune connector is online or not. So that initial diagram which I was showing, that Intune service was connected to the server wherein the Intune connector is installed, right? So if that server is down, or if that server is powered off, its status is going to be inactive in the Intune connector, in the Intune portal, in the Ibiza console. If that server is on, and then its connection is going to be in active state. So what happens is the Intune connector polls the Intune service, and it keeps on establishing, like kind of sends a heartbeat. So it keeps on establishing a connection. So if that heartbeat is broken, if the server is down, if the network is down, if the connectivity is not there, then it shows as inactive. These are a few things which we need to make sure of. So I think it will make more sense if you actually see this. So these are some things which we have to make sure of while we are deploying, while we are configuring the template. So as I said, if you remember, in case of PKCS, the public as well as the private key travels, right? So we have to make sure that we are making this selection in the template, allow private key to be exported. Other than that, we have in the subject name, we have to select supply in request. We have to uncheck proof of origin. We have to validate that the extension has a client auth. We have to export the private key, as I said over here, and then we can duplicate a computer or a user template. There are some differences which we will see, and we'll have to make sure that sufficient enroll permissions are there. So we will actually see this in action. I just wanted to make a slide of that because when we are revisiting, just make sure that these things are in place, because if it's a issue with PKCS deployment, this is usually what interface. So make sure that this checklist is taken care of, and then we can your deployment should be fine. Okay. Now this slide is actually talking about how we can track a successful deployment of a PKCS certificate. So the first thing that we will be checking obviously is whether the CA has issued it or not. If the CA has issued it, then did it get logged in the Intune connector or not? So as I said, Intune connector is the interface between the Intune service and the certification authority, right? So then we have to, so EndS service log is one thing that we can check. Also in that same server, we have something called a PFX log. Again, I'm going to show each and every log to you. So for better understanding, so that PFX log will actually show that whether the EndS connector has received. Okay, so one more thing which I should have said. I am repeatedly sometime using EndS connector and sometime using Intune connector. Please don't get confused. The right verbiage here is Intune connector. It's not EndS connector. I just have a habit of using EndS connector because it's the same connector which we use in case of EndS as well. But let's just call it Intune connector and not EndS connector. Okay. So the PFX log is actually going to show that whether the Intune connector has received the certificate which the CA issued for it or not. And once the certificate reaches the device, we can check the company portal logs of the device. In case of Windows, we can check the event viewer and see that whether the certificate was received and installed successfully or not. If it was installed, then we can go to the personal store of the device. In case of Windows, we can open up an MMC. In case of Android or iOS, we can go to the internal search and see whether the certificate is showing or not. If the certificate is showing, then finally we can go back to the portal and see what is the deployment status of the profile. If the device has reported back to the portal and notified that yes, I have received the certificate, please mark it as succeeded. So for this is actually the entire flow for marking a successful deployment of a PKCS profile. So this is how exactly we are going to track it. So if there's problem with the CA is not going to issue it. We are going to identify that on step 1 itself. If there is a problem between the CA and if there is a connectivity problem between the CA and the server wherein the Intune connector is installed, so that is something which would come up under the PFX log or the EndS service connector log. If the certificate has been deployed successfully, the device has received it, but it's not installing for some reason, that is something which will come up under the company portal logs or the Windows logs. Once the certificate has been installed successfully, if the portal is replying that it has unsucceeded, but everything else is happening fine, then we can check the personal store of the device, which would help us substantiate that maybe it's a portal issue, the portal is not getting updated, but the device has received the certificate. And finally checking back the portal. So this is actually going to be the flow which we can keep in mind. Okay. All right. So this is actually a screenshot of each and every step. So the first step is whether the CA has issued it or not. This is the first step, right? So what I did was I enrolled my Windows device. I enrolled a Windows and an Android device to my tenant and deployed a PKCS cert, and the deployment went successfully. So the first thing that I checked was whether the CA had issued it or not. So over here you can see that this is the username that I used to enroll my device. So I can see that this is the MMC console in the CA. So under the issued certificate, I can see that a certificate has been issued with this timestamp. If I double click on that certificate and go to the certification path, I can see that my CA, this is my CA, Fourth Coffee CA, has issued a certificate to this user. And if I double click on that certificate, I can see that it has been issued to this user and issued by this CA. Okay, so the CA has issued it. By this we can conclude. If we double click on that certificate, we can see the properties of the certificate which the CA has issued. So this is the thumbprint of that certificate. So if the certificate has if the device has many certificates, and if we are trying to track that which certificate was the one, and we are trying to make sure that yes, we are looking at the right certificate, then I would suggest that please match it with the thumbprint. So thumbprint is one of the things that we need to look at. So that the certificate which the CA has issued has a thumbprint. It has a subject alternative name, because the profile that we configured in that we selected the subject alternative name accordingly. Over here I can see that the subject alternative name is username@nuggetlabs.onmicrosoft.com. And finally, the template from wherein the template that was being used had this parameter client authentication. Therefore, the certificate which is being used has this parameter as well. It has the SMIME capabilities as well. So the certificate which is being used has the same parameter as the parameter which the template had. Okay, so these are the cert properties. So now till now we have identified that the CA has issued the cert, because we have seen the cert from the CA itself being issued to the user. Now let's just talk about the service connector logs. So Intune service connector log is the log of the Intune connector that we have installed on one of the servers on-prem. Okay. So these are the logs of the Intune connector, and this is exactly the processing that we are supposed to see in case of a successful deployment. The first thing they are going to see is that something called generating SAN list, and then we are going to see the SAN value with the username, and then we are going to see that the certificate has been issued to this user, and wherein this is the device ID to which the certificate has been issued. Okay, so this is actually a successful, I've taken a snippet. How to do this is we have to go to C drive, program files, Microsoft Intune, and then EndS SVC, and inside that logs. That is wherein the logs of Intune connector is present. So all we have to do is just double click and open the logs, and then when we do that, for every successful certificate deployment, for every successful certificate which the CA is giving back to the connector, this is what we are going to see. First, it's going to show that a certificate has been issued, and it's trying to issue a certificate where it's going to say it's generating the SAN list, as in it's populating the SAN name, as in it's it's determining to whom it's going to issue the certificate. Now the SAN name or the subject alternative name that we have selected is the name of the user in this case. So now it says that the SAN value is this, and then it finally says that it has that the CA has issued a certificate to this device, and this is the device ID of the device onto which I had enrolled. Okay. All right. So I have opened this service connector log, Intune connector logs in Notepad. You can use a tool called Service Trace Viewer as well. In Service Trace Viewer, it's a little bit more, it's more user friendly. So I have opened the same logs via Service Trace Viewer, and over here you can see that it doesn't show all this information in the XMLNS format or the XML format. So it's a bit, it's neat a little. So over here we can see that the SAN list is getting generated, and then we can see that the SAN value is this, and then in the next one we will be able to see that a certificate has been issued to the device ID, wherein the device ID will be mentioned. So this and this are exactly the same logs. This has been opened via Notepad, while that one has been opened via Service Trace Viewer, which gives a which gives us a neater view. Okay. All right. The next log that I would be checking is the PFX log. So the PFX log is going to be present in the same server wherein the service connector log was present. So the location is C drive, program files, Microsoft Intune PFX request, and under PFX request we are going to have 3 folders. The first one is going to be processing, and one of them is going to be succeeded, and one of them is going to be failed. So during the processing phase, the processing is happening as in the request has come to the request has come to the Intune connector, and the Intune connector has forwarded that request to the CA. While the CA is manufacturing that certificate, a log is present in the processing folder. Once the processing is done, it is either going to succeed or is going to fail. Therefore, this folder is going to be empty, and the same log is either going to move over here or the same log is going to move over here, depending upon whether the deployment was successful or whether this deployment was failure. Okay. So once it has been succeeded or once it has been failed, we can go to PFX request and then succeeded folder, and that folder is going to contain all the information of the certificate that was issued by the CA. So it's going to contain the thumbprint of the certificate as well as the name of the user onto which for which the certificate has been generated, and the SAN name as well as the issue attempts. Okay, so let me just go back over here and show you this. This certificate which the user has received, it has a thumbprint ending with F76A. Okay, and if I check the logs also show, the PFX logs, that the thumbprint ends with F76A. Therefore, the thumbprint matches with the certificate which the user has received. Okay. So in the PFX log, this is how we are going to check in the PFX log. In the PFX log, we will be able to see the thumbprint of the certificate as well as the SAN value. In the service connector logs, we are going to see the device ID to which the certificate has been generated as well as the SAN value. Okay. And then the final place where we can track it is the company portal logs. So for an Android device, this is an Android device which was enrolled, and this Android device was enrolled and it got that same PKCS cert which we were checking in the logs right now. So this is the extract of the company portal logs, and the company portal logs first is saying that this is going to be the flow. First it's going to say that looking for a Wi-Fi profile using certificate with alias this. Then it is going to say that received a certificate, and then it is going to say that the certificate, that the status changed from cert install requested to cert access granted. This actually means that the profile has got installed and the certificate has got installed. And if you notice, the thumbprint of the certificate which got installed, this is from the end device. Okay, this is the end device. This is not the portal or the server. This is in the intranet. This is in the internet. So this company portal logs from this end device is showing that a certificate has been installed with the thumbprint ending with F76A, which matches with the thumbprint which we were able to see in the server F76A in the PFX logs, which matches with the thumbprint which was issued, which we were able to see in the SVC connector, and the thumbprint which we were able to see in the certificate in the certification authority. So what I'm trying to say is the certificate, that the thumbprint of the certificate matches, so it's the same certificate. In case of Windows, we don't have the company portal logs, right? So company portal logs is for iOS or Android. In case of Windows, we need to go to this location, that is event viewer that is we have to open up event viewer and then Windows logs, application and services logs, Microsoft Windows certification service, certificate service client, lifecycle, user operational, and then over there it is going to show that a new certificate has been installed. If you click on the details tab, it is going to show you the thumbprint of the certificate as well. Okay, so the certificate which we were seeing earlier ending with 6A, that was deployed to an Android device. This certificate was deployed to the Windows device. So this is how in case of Windows devices, as we don't have company portal logs, we will be checking the event viewer, and this is wherein we will be validating that the certificate has been installed or not, and validating the thumbprint of the certificate. So this is the certificate which was issued by the CA, and you can see that we can see that certificate in the Windows store as well. So let me just go back here. The company portal logs has received it. Yes, we have seen the company portal logs. In case of Windows, we have checked the Windows event viewer and we have identified that yes, the certificate has been received. Now we are going to check the personal store of the device and see that whether the certificate is even visible in the personal store of the device or not. Okay. So this is the personal store of the device. This is the end device. Okay, this is the device, and I have opened, this is a Windows 10 machine, and I have opened a MMC in that Windows 10 machine. I went to the current user personal certificate, and this is the user who enrolled the device named Xmas because it's Xmas season. So this user has got a certificate which was issued by Fourth Coffee CA, which is my internal CA. And if I double click on it, I can see the thumbprint of the certificate ends with C3DD, which correlates with the thumbprint of the certificate which I was able to track from the event viewer. Okay, C3DD. So what I'm trying to say, it's again, it's in correlation, right? Now, in case of iOS devices, we don't have MMC obviously. So what we need to do is we need to go to the management profile, and over there in the management profile, we will be able to see the certificate which has been issued. So over here, you can see that this is the user who had enrolled the device. So he had got a certificate to his username, which has been issued by my on-prem CA. And it's if you click on that certificate, it's going to give you all the information that it's valid for 1 year, not valid after 2019 27th of December, and then it's going to show you the SAN name, it's going to show you the key identifier, it's going to show you the thumbprint of the certificate, it's going to show you all the information. In case of Android, please keep this in mind. In case of Android, if we go to the user store, we will not be able to see the PKCS certificate, because by default Android does not have the access to the user store wherein the PKCS certificate is installed. We can only see the trusted root certificate, but not the PKCS certificate. So this is one of the third-party applications that you can use. It's called My Certificate. If you install this application, it will show you a prompt like this. You have to click on inspect certificate from the store. You are going to click on that, and then it is going to show you all the certificates that are present in the store of this device. So in this case, we can see that there is a certificate which has been issued to this user, which is present in this device. If I click on that, I can see that it has been issued by my on-prem CA. Okay, so what I'm trying to say is, in case of Windows and in case of iOS, you will be normally able to see the certificate very easily. In case of Android, you will have to install a third-party application, and then it will actually show you the certificate which has been issued in the trusted in the personal store, as well as all the attributes of that certificate, the SAN name, the issuing authority, the expiry, as well as the thumbprint. Okay, and finally we have to go to the portal and make sure that the device has reported back to the console and said that yes, the deployment was succeeded. Okay, so so now the device has successfully reported that the certificate it had is now working. I mean, the certificate has been installed. So this is how exactly we will be tracking the flow of certificate, and whenever wherever things are not falling up, wherever things are not moving ahead smoothly, we will be knowing that okay, the CA has not issued it, therefore there is no point checking the company portal logs, right? There's no point going from there. If the CA has not issued it, then probably the template name isn't correct, or probably the friendly name isn't correct, or probably, I mean, there is some problem with the CA not processing it. So maybe the CA is not processing it because some problem with the CA, or because some problem with the profile. If the PFX log is not showing the certificate even though CA has issued it, then that means that there is some problem with the connectivity of the CA with the Intune connector. If the Intune connector is showing the certificate, the Intune service has got it, but the device is not getting it, then again there is some network connectivity in the internet side. If the device has got it, installed it, company portal is showing it, but the portal again is not updated as successful, then that's a reporting issue. Okay, all right. So now let's just do the fun part. Now let's just do a live demo. Okay, so let me just quickly switch to my hypervisor, and I am going to start my machines. So I'm going to start it. So I'm going to start my machines right now, and once the machines are started, we will make the deployment and the configuration. Okay guys, so my lab is now ready and we can go ahead with the deployment. So let me just show you what exactly I am going to use. So this is my DC and my CA. This is the first machine that I'm going to use and that we might be needing. We would be needing one other server wherein we will be installing the Intune connector. This is the server which I am going to use to install the Intune connector. It is not mandatory to install Intune connector on a different server. You can install it on the CA as well, but I want to install it on a different connector, therefore I'll be installing it. Okay, and then I will be needing test devices. So I have a Windows 10 machine which I am going to enroll, and once it is enrolled I will see that whether it's getting the certificate or not. Okay, so the first thing that we are going to do from the infra point of view is let me just minimize this and go back to my slides and show you the deployment so that we can refer to that. Okay, step 1, as you can see, is install the Intune connector with PFX option. Okay, so I am going to go back to the server. This is the server wherein I want to install the Intune connector. So the way to install the Intune connector is, first you have to go to the portal, and this is my Intune portal, and you have to go to device configuration, and then you have to click on certification authority, and then you have to click on add. Then from here we can install the connector. If you want to install the PKCS 12 connector, download from here. If you want to install the Scape connector, download from here. Both are though the same. Okay, so you just have to click on this and it's going to download the connector for you. I'm going to remove the old entry because I had the connector already installed and working. I'm just doing it all over again. So as I said, if the connector is uninstalled or if the server is offline, it shows error over here. So I'm just removing the old entry, and then I just, all we have to do is click on add, click over here, download the connector, and then move it to the server. I've already moved it. So this is my server, FC-CM01, wherein I am going to install the Intune connector. And where exactly does the installation take place? The installation takes place in C drive, program files, and then Microsoft Intune. Okay, so right now you can see that there is no Microsoft Intune folder over here. Okay, so this is the connector that I downloaded. I am going to run it as an admin. Okay, the installation is starting. It's a lightweight installation, so it's not going to take a lot of time, less than a couple of minutes. Okay, so it's going to check the space, then I have to do a next. I accept the EULA, the place where it's going to install. Yes, it's fine with me. I want to make use of PFX distribution. If we use this, then it can be used for Scape as well as PFX. So I could use this one as well, but I want to use this one for now because it's simpler. Because if I use this one, it will ask me to bind a certificate, so which is a mandate for Scape. So I don't want to do Scape for now. I want to do PFX. So I'll just select PFX and then I'll do a install. So the installation is now happening. Once the installation is done, there is two things that we will have to configure. Okay, I'll just show it to you in a moment. Once the installation is done, the Intune connector service is now restarting, and then the IIS role is not needed, just the IIS service at the background. So now over here we'll have to click on launch Intune connector and then click on finish, and the Intune connector UI is going to then open up. Okay, so I'm waiting for the Intune connector UI to open. This is the Intune connector UI. If we are using any proxy, then we can provide the proxy information over here. Okay, now what we have to do is we have to sign in. Once we sign in over here, then the connection is going to get established between the Intune service on the internet and this server which has the Intune connector on the intranet. This sign in has to be done with the credential which is present in the cloud. So it needs either to be created in the cloud, or it can be synced from your on-prem using Azure AD Connect. But we need to sign in using a credential which is there in the cloud. And this credential, please mind you, needs to have an EMS license assigned to it. Okay. All right. So I'm going to now log in. Okay, the password. No, I don't want you to remember it. Oops, it says that the password is incorrect. How come? Did I change my password? Okay, I'm sorry guys. Okay, as it turns out, I was using the wrong username. I've got two users, so I should be making use of this one. This should work. No, I don't want you to remember it. Okay, now the connection is getting established. It is trying to look out to a tenant with that username and password. Make sure that it has a EMS license assigned to it. And then even if the EMS license is not assigned, this enrollment is going to happen, but it's going to affect it when the server reaches out to the CA and requests for a certificate. So please make sure it has a license. Now, just one more and very, very important thing which I want to show you guys is the advanced tab. Over here, we have two options. Use this. Okay, so let's just read what it says. Specify an account that has revocation privileges on the certification authority server from which the Intune from which the EndS connector issues the certificate. This account will be used by the EndS connector for Microsoft Intune to revoke certificates. So first of all, please don't get confused with the name EndS connector. The connector that we have installed says EndS connector, but it is an Intune connector because it is used for EndS as well as for Scape. Okay. The second thing over here, it says that this account which we are going to specify over here is the account which the connector is going to use for revocation of certificates when the CA revokes a certificate. However, this is the same account which the connector is going to use while requesting an issuance of a certificate. So the Intune service is requesting a certificate on behalf of the end user by forwarding the request to the Intune connector, and the Intune connector reaches out to the CA and says that this user is requesting for a certificate, and it carries this user credentials with it. So this credential which we are specifying over here is the credential that the Intune connector is going to take with it and go to the CA and request for a certificate. Okay, so this is very important. So by default, I would suggest use the system account because the password of the system account would not change. If we are using a service account over here, we can mention that as well. It has to be in the format of domain / the username and the password. And I'll show you what exactly is the significance of this account and how exactly is this needed. So this, as far as the Intune connector installation goes, just right click, run, finish. We just have to keep three things in mind. First, during the installation, click the PFX option. Second, the sign in option over here, it needs to be an Azure cred, needs to have an EMS license assigned to it. And third, the option that we are selecting over here. Okay, so now the connector has been installed successfully. If I go back over here, After some time, okay, not after some time, it is I have been talking since past 5 minutes, so therefore it got populated. So over here you can see that the last connected time is 5:17 p.m. Currently the time in my device is 5:17 p.m. 29th of December 2018. So it has been the same device as the same time as my device. So this is the new one. So once we install the Intune connector in the device, and once we connect it to the Azure, it shows active over there. If I were to shut down this machine, it's going to show inactive or in error state. Okay, so that's all I needed to do in the server wherein I'm installing the connector. Now let's just go back over here and see. Now it says that configure both the accounts for the connector. We have configured both the accounts. The first account used to sign in, and the second account was the system account which I was using. Now we have to go to the CA and make the needed changes over there. So now I am going to minimize this, and now I am going to the CA certification authority, which happens to be my domain controller, and I am going to do the needful over there. So I'm logging in. Now I am going to open up the MMC. So go to run, or you can, if you have a MMC exported, you can use that, or you can go to run and then type MMC and then do a yes. And we are going to add a snap-in for certification authority. So I'm going to add certification authority over here, add local computer, yes, and then okay. All right, so this is my certification authority. All right, I'm going to expand this, I'm going to expand this, and I'm going to expand this. It's now going to show me the templates. Okay, so this is the these are all the templates that are present over there. This template is the template which is going to be used for generating certificates in our case, meaning that when the request comes to the CA, a certificate will be generated by the CA, and that certificate is going to have some parameters, right? So that parameters will be on the basis of this template which we are going to create. So think of it think of it in this way, that we have a brick, we have a structure of a brick, okay, which the CA has. Whenever somebody comes in and says that I want a certificate, this structure of a brick is used to mold a new certificate and give out a certificate. So I guess we all know what a certificate template is. I'm just trying to explain what a certificate template is, and this certificate, depending upon the parameters of this certificate, a new certificate is going to be generated. Okay, so I would suggest making a new, so the way of doing this is we have to make a new template. We can duplicate an existing template. So I would suggest duplicating either from user or from computer. The documentation says using it from computer, but we can use user as well. Some extra changes needs to be made for that. I will show you. Okay, so I'm going to make use of the computer template just in accordance with the documentation. So right click over. So what we'll have to do is, first we'll have to right click over here and do a manage. Okay, we cannot duplicate it from that screen. We have to come over here, and then we have to look at the computer templates and we have to click on duplicate template. So we are making a new template using this computer template. Okay, so I clicked on duplicate template, and please be very cautious when you are making a new template. Its parameters are very, very important. So the certification authority in my case is a Windows Server 2012. So I'm doing OK over here. Certification authority is Windows Server 2012. The certificate recipient, I'm not going to change it. It doesn't matter. The same template is going to issue certificates for iOS, Windows, and Android. So it's not like it's saying Windows XP, Windows 8, 8.1, therefore it doesn't mean that it's not going to issue certificate for Android or iOS. The same certificate is going to be issued. The same template is going to be issued to generate a certificate, okay? Now let's just come to general. We'll go through all the tabs and it's very important, okay? So we'll go to the general, certificate display name, okay? So now I am going to give a certificate name. Let's just call it demo PKCS cert, okay? The validity is 1 year. I just want you guys to make a note of this, that we have a template display name and we have a template name. So the template display name is the same as the template name, just that the template name does not have the spaces, okay? So template name is the one which we will be putting in the profile. So I just want to come over here real quick, open up a notepad and make a note of this. The template name is this. The template name is demo PKCS cert, okay? Well, I think it would make more sense if we are calling it a TM template and not cert, right? TEMP, okay? All right. So now we have the template name. Request handling tab, we have to select this option, allow private key to be exported, and these are all mandatory requirements. So as I said, in case of PKCS, the private key travels with the certificate, therefore we have to click on this, allow private key to be exported. And the cryptography, the cryptography looks fine. In the key attestation, the key attestation looks fine as well. In the superseded template, looks fine. Extension, just make sure that the extension has client authentication, because if you are at the end of the day going to use this certificate for Wi-Fi, so what that means is that this certificate is going to be used for Wi-Fi authentication, right? Which in way means that it is used for client authentication. The client is proving its identity to the Wi-Fi. So therefore it needs to have this parameter, okay? And the security, the most important thing. The security tab should have that account which is requesting the certificate from the CA. So if you remember, guys, when we were in the server wherein we had installed the Intune and the Intune connector, we had configured two accounts. The first one which it was going to use to establish connection with the Azure, and the second one was the account which it was going to use to go to the CA and request for a certificate. It can be a service account or a computer account. We selected on a computer account. That computer account is going to come to the CA and request for a certificate. So that computer account needs to have rights to request for a certificate, right? So we are going to click over here and give it the rights. So in the object types, I am going to change it to a computer account. If you're using a user account, you can use that as well. The name is FC-CM01. Check names, okay. The only permission that this needs is enroll, auto enroll, and that's it. I think only enroll should do, but I am doing a auto enroll as well. So it does not need a full control. It's a system account. You can use a user account as well or a service account depending upon the account that you've used in your connector. Okay, so that is fine. I am going to go to subject name, and in the subject name we have to select this option, supply in the request. Okay, that's fine. and then server, it's fine. Issuance requirement is fine as well. I just want to go through all the tabs once again. This is fine. Extension, application policies, this is fine. Basic constraint is fine. Certification, issuance policies, key usage. Yeah, this is the one I was looking for. So in the key usage, if this template is going to issue certificates only to Android and Windows, the settings that we have done until now is fine. But if it is going to issue certificates to iOS as well, then we have to make sure that this setting is unchecked. Signature is proof of origin. This needs to be unchecked if the template is going to be used for issuing certificates to iOS devices as well. Okay. All right. So I'm just going to do a apply over here. And then I'm just going to check the subject name. The subject name is fine. The server, everything is fine. It looks good. So now we are ready. Demo PKCS. Let's just check the security once again. Make sure that yes, it's there. Okay. All right. So the demo PKCS temp has been created. Now all we have to do is we have to publish it. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I am going to close this now. I'm going to right click, manage. And then I am going to so over here right now we can see that demo PKCS template is showing. But right now it cannot be issued. Okay. You can see that it's showing up in the background, but it is not showing up over here because it has not been published yet. So we have to right click over here and now publish this template. That is, this template should now be able to issue certificate. Right now the template has been created, but it is not issuing any certificate. So we'll have to click on certificate template to issue, and then we'll have to select the template that we just made. Now it should show our template. This is the one. This is an old template. I don't need it. I'm just deleting that, causing confusion. Okay. All right. So demo PKCS template is the one which is issuing the certificate. Okay. Just one more thing which I want you guys to know, and which is going to be very handy, is some organizations I have seen that they don't duplicate this template from computer, they duplicate it from user. Okay. So if you're duplicating it from user, then you can name it accordingly, and that template is going to have the same parameters and the same security, and that template should have that account should have access onto this template, which is going to issue for request for certificate. Also, guys, this is actually the friendly name of my CA. This is referred to as the friendly name. Okay. You can see that there is a space here. Okay. So that account needs to have permission on the friendly name as well. Okay. So what I'll have to do is I'll have to do a right click, properties, security, and I have to provide, I have already provided that, I have to provide that account, this FCCM01 access. Only request certificate is what is needed, request certificate, rest is not needed. I need to provide that account access over the friendly name as well. Okay, that is only if you are duplicating this template from a user account. If you're duplicating it from a computer account, then whatever I have done until now is fine, that will suffice. Okay, so let me just go back over here. We have installed the connector, we have configured it on-prem, we have duplicated a template from CA. So what did we do? We right-clicked on the computer template and created a new template, and in that new template we gave a new template name and configured it accordingly. In the configuration, what did we select? In the configuration, and after it was configured, we published it. Okay, we just need to make sure that the account which is configured in the Intune connector, which is going to request for the certificate, has access on the template. Let me just show you one more quick thing, guys. So a quick way, actually it took me quite a while to realize this. I've installed the Intune connector in this server, right? So if I want to launch it again, if I double click on the exe, it's going to prompt for an installation. So the quick way of launching it is going to the same place wherein it has been installed. So C drive, program files, Microsoft Intune, and then Intune connector UI, and then double clicking on EndS connector UI. So it's going to launch that same same console. And this is the account that I've been repeatedly talking about, the system account or the user account. This is the account which is used for requesting the certificate from the CA. So it is incumbent that this account has permission on the certificate template, and I would suggest that give it permission on the friendly name as well. Okay, all right. So now I can minimize this. I just want to now make a note of the friendly name. Okay, so as I said, the friendly name of the CA is FOURTHCOFFE space CA. Please make sure this is exactly same right to the dot. Okay, so it is fourth coffee space CA. And the last thing that I would be needing is the FQDN of the CA. So the FQDN of the CA, I already know, I'm just showing it to you. And then the host name. So the FQDN of the CA is FQDN is FC-DC 01 dot FO dot FOURTHCOFFEE.com. Okay, just make sure that it is pinging. So ping FC-DC 01 dot fourthcoffee.com. Oops, something went wrong. I think I know what went wrong. It is actually I didn't type the FQDN correctly. I think it is LOCAL. Yeah, there you go. My bad. So it's not fourthcoffee.com, it is LOCAL. Okay, so it's really important that we are making a note of this name very carefully. Okay, so that's all that was needed to be done over here. I am just going to copy this. I'm going to come back over here onto my base machine, paste this, and now we are going to do a deployment. It has been published. The certificate template has been published. Now we are going to go to the portal and we are going to create a device configuration policy. So I went to the dashboard, Microsoft Intune, certification authority. It is online, which is a good thing. Now I'm going to go to the profiles and I'm going to create a new profile. I am going to call this profile my demo PKCS iOS. So this profile is obviously platform specific, so each profile has to be made for each platform. So I'm making this for iOS. The profile type is PKCS, and the renewal threshold, this is wherein we are configuring the profile. This is on the basis of which the request is made. Renewal threshold, this is the amount of time after which the certificate is going to request for a renew. The default setting is 20%. I'll set it to 20%. Certificate validity period, there are two certificate validity period. One is over here and one is on the template. I'll suggest if this is more than that, doesn't make any sense. The certificate is going to expire anyways. So I'll say that my certificate expiry is 1 year, so I'll keep that over here as well. Certification authority name and certificate template and subject name format. I would stress that please make sure that these are correct, and while troubleshooting, this is what we should be checking the first thing. So I'm going to copy the FQDN from here. The certification authority. Let's just say what the I says. It says that the fully qualified domain name of the server that hosts the certification authority role and issues certificates. Okay, so over here I am going to put in the FQDN of my certification authority. Okay, all right. The certification authority name, just move your mouse to the I, and over there it will tell you what exactly is it expecting. A friendly name for the certification authority. Friendly name doesn't mean you can put in anything and it will work. Friendly name over here means the name which I showed you at that point of time. This is the friendly name. Fourth coffee space CA. It needs to be exactly the same. So I am going to put in the friendly name now, which is fourth coffee space CA, and then the template name. Whatever template we put in over here is the template against which the certificates are going to be issued. It's incumbent that we put in the exact name over here. Subject name format is the name against which it will be issued. So I'm going to use common name because my email is not synced, and subject alternative name I'm going to use UPN. Okay, so I'm going to do a OK over here, and I am going to do a create. So my demo PKCS has been created. Now I am going to create a, I'm not going to assign it just yet. I'm going to create a my demo PKCS Windows. Okay, I'm going to create all the profiles, just show you the differences and then assign it. So I am going to assign it to Windows 10 and later, and the options over here is PKCS, and now you will see that it gives us much more option. I'll show you. So the renewal threshold is 20%. Okay, validity period is 1 year. It's going to key storage provider. Select where you want to store the certificate's key. So as I said that in case of PKCS certificate, the public and the private key travels with the certificate. So it's asking you where exactly you want to store the key. Do you want to store it in the TPM? Do you want to if you select this one, enroll to trusted platform module TPM KSP, otherwise fail, it means that the key will be stored in the TPM, and if the TPM is not there, then the certificate deployment is going to get failed. So for example, let's just say I've deployed it to a device, I've deployed it to a user, the user has enrolled a device whose TPM is not working, or the user has enrolled a virtual machine, not a physical machine. In that case, the deployment will fail if I am selecting this option. So I would suggest select the first one, that is enroll to trusted platform module if present, otherwise software KSP. You can select the last one as well, because if the TPM is not present, it will anyway go to the KSP. Okay, certification authority, again the same drill guys. Certification authority is the name of the CA, which is this. Certification authority name, a friendly name. Please don't confuse between the two. Certificate template name, demo PKCS template, demo PKCS temp. Subject name format is I am going to choose common name and UPN. Okay, all right. Now it's going to ask me what exactly is this going to be used for. I'm going to use it for client authentication. You can use it for secure email as well. I'm using a client authentication. I'm going to add it and then OK and then create. Okay, so it is created now. Now I am going to create another profile for Android. Okay, I am going to call it my PKCS, my demo PKCS Android, and here you will see the difference between the three profiles. If you placed close attention to when I was saying what is different in Android, you will actually see it. So in case of Android, I selected PKCS. Over here you can see that it's asking me the same information, but there is one more attribute saying root certificate. So it won't let you save this unless and until you provide the root certificate, meaning that in case of Android, the PKCS certificate is linked with a root certificate. Okay, so first we will have to create a root certificate. What exactly is that root certificate? The trusted root certificate. The trusted root certificate contains a certificate which the CA is issuing to the CA. So you can open up the certification authority, and from there under the trusted root certificate you can export it, and it should look something like this, which the CA is issuing to itself. So I've just copied it from here. Over here you can see that issued by is this and issued to is this, because the friendly name is different in my case. If the friendly name is same, you will be seeing the same name. Okay, so essentially these two computers are the same. Okay, this is the FQDN and this is the friendly name. Therefore you are able to see two different names. Ideally, if the friendly name is the same, the issued to and the issued by will be the same. Okay, so I've just exported it. I just brought it to my base. I just brought it to my over here. Yeah, this is the one I'm showing. So first, as I said, I have to make a root. So first I am making a root profile which contains the, this is actually for chain building. So my my CA is issuing a certificate to a device. How exactly is the end device going to trust it? The end device is only going to trust it if it is linked with a trusted root profile. Okay, it's for chain building, only required in Android, not required in iOS or Windows. Okay, so the profile type, I'm going to select trusted certificate, and then I'm going to upload the CER. So I'm going to go to desktop and upload the .cer over there. Okay, I did a OK over there, I did a OK, and I did a create. Okay, now I am going to make the PKCS profile. So I am going to call it my demo PKCS Android. Okay, this is the PKCS, this is not the root. So in the platform, I am going to select Android or Android Enterprise, whatever the case may be. So I'm going to enroll it as Android, and then the configuration type is PKCS, and then the threshold, again the same drill, 20%, 1 year. Certification authority name, in my case the certification authority name is the FQDN of the CA, which I am copying from here. Okay, now the certification authority name, please again caution, don't confuse, it's asking you for the FQDN, no, sorry, it's asking you for the friendly name. I put it over here. The certificate template name, copy, the template is over here. Subject name format is common name, common UPN. Extended key usage is client authentication, and this actually needs to be present in the certificates attribute. Okay, which in case we have mirrored it from a computer or a user template, so therefore it will be. And now root certificate, the deployment will fail if we don't do this link. So I'm linking it to all the trusted certificates that are present in my portal are showing up over here. This is the one I want to link it to, my demo PKCS Android root. So I'm going to do a OK and a create. Okay, so it has been created now. Now what needs to be done is a deployment. But as we all know, in Intune, deployment cannot be done to a user. It is done to a security group. So I have a user, I just have to put it on a security group. So I have a group called PK. Let me just check its members. It has got only one member. Let me just add another member. I have a member called Tom. Okay, so I'm going to add Tom. This is the device account, please don't get confused. So I'm going to add Tom over here. Tom is a member of this. Let me go back to properties and then members. I can see that Tom is a member. The only prerequisite is that Tom needs to have a EMS license in order to be able to enroll his devices. Okay, so now I'm going to enroll a Windows 10 device and see that whether the certificate is getting deployed or not. So I am going to start this machine. This is the machine I'm going to enroll. Okay, so okay, let's just do a connect. I'm going to enroll a Windows machine. So enrolling it is the same drill, going to start and then settings and then accounts and then access work or school. Oops, apparently this machine is already enrolled. So let me see if I have any other machine. Okay, yeah, I can use this one. Okay, I don't need CL01. I could use CL02. Okay, all right, action. So I'm just logging into the machine. I'm going to enroll this machine then. So the enrollment process is the same. Start, settings, accounts, access work or school. Right now you can see it's not connected. So I'm going to enroll it using Tom. Okay, using Tom's credential. So Tom is enrolling this machine. Tom @ nuggetlabs.onmicrosoft.com. I don't remember Tom's credentials, so I'll have to see what's the password. It is ZUSA 09351. Okay, all right, let's just sign in. This device will now get Azure AD registered, and if the auto enrollment is on, it will get enrolled. It says that hold on while we register this device to your company and apply the policy. So it's doing the Azure AD registration at this point of time. It has to, okay, I have to set this up. All right, pick a verification method. I'm going to do a phone call. I am in India and my phone number. I'm going to do a next. I'm going to get a call. It's an MFA, so can't get around it. I have to answer that call in order to okay, I'm still waiting on the call. Okay guys, so finally I got the call and the device got enrolled successfully. So right now I can see that this device has been enrolled by Tom @nuggetlabs.onmicrosoft.com. If I go to info and do a quick sync, I can see that the local time is 6:24 and the sync time is the same. Okay, let me just go back to the portal and see that the device has been enrolled successfully or not. So I have enrolled a Windows machine right in front of you guys, and I took the liberty of enrolling 2 other machines at the back end. So let me see here. Okay, so okay, so these 3 machines are enrolled by Tom. Okay, so this is the one which I just enrolled in front of you, and I have enrolled this iOS machine and an Android device as well in the background. So now I have three machines all enrolled by Tom and three profiles which are delivered. I just want to do one quick thing just for fun. I'm not exactly sure whether it's going to work or not. I've never done that before. I have a machine, and using an emulator I made an Android machine. So this is a, I mean, just in case if you don't have an Android phone to do practical with, you can use this emulator. So I am going to, what, it got restarted again? No. Okay, for some reason it got restarted. Now it's back. So now the process is the same. Install the company portal application from Play Store, and then the device should get enrolled. So just treat it like a mobile device. Okay, I want to enroll it. Let's just see whether this works or not. Okay, yes. tom@nuggetlabs.onmicrosoft.com. What happened? That on tom@nuggetlabs.onmicrosoft.com. Next. I don't remember the password. What just happened there? Okay, I'm sorry, my bad. I don't remember the password. I'll have to check it again. So the password is ZUSA09351. Come on. Okay guys, so it accepted the password, and now I'm going to click on enroll your device. Next. It's coming back to the same screen. I don't know why. Let me see here. Okay guys, I think it is signing me in now. So yeah, getting this device. We can't show the terms and conditions right now, so can't let you into that company until you see and accept them. Oh, what is that? Not a good idea, guys. I am okay. Google sign in. Let's just see what is this saying. Okay guys, this Android machine, I think I need to work on it. It's a pain in the neck. Anyways, I think I have everything right now to go ahead with the deployment. So I've got a Windows, an iOS, and an Android machine. So let's just, without wasting any time, let's just go ahead and make the deployments. So first I am going to do it on the iOS machine, So my demo PKCS iOS, I am going to go to the assignments, and I am going to select a group. My group is called PK, which has the user Tom in it. So I'm going to do a select and then save. And then I would rather do it one at a time, so that I can actually show you the flow of the certificate in the portal, and as well as the logs as well. So I'm just doing it one at a time. I'm not deploying the other certificate. I'm not deploying it to Windows. In the background, what I can also do is I can deploy the root cert, because the root cert is not going to be issued by the CA. So let me just deploy this as well. PK, select, save. And just an FYI guys, you can track it from the device status or the user status. Track the deployment. So I'm going to go to the Azure AD devices, CL2, and let me just click on this and run a quick sync, and then I am going to go to the iOS device, nope, not this one, the iOS device, and do a sync of the iOS device so that it gets the PKCS profile and then reaches back to the then reaches back to the Intune service. Intune does the job of mediator and then takes it off from there. And then let me just click on the Android device so that it gets the trusted root profile. Okay, if I click on the these are two. Okay, this might confuse you guys. These are two initial deployments which I had. It's still running anyways. Okay, let me just do this. Let me just go back to device configuration, profiles, and then I have got, let me just delete the other ones, the ones that were created before. So my demo PKCS, this is Windows, iOS, Android root. Let me just, this is there. Let me just remove this. Let me just remove this. Let me just remove this. Okay, let me just remove this. Okay, now it looks way cleaner. Okay, so I have deployed the Android root. So the root should be at the pending state. So it is currently in pending state in this device. These two devices, we can just ignore it. These are other devices which I enrolled 2 days earlier to collect the screenshots. So it's currently in the deployment phase. So now let's just do a live tracking. So the live tracking is going to be done by, I am going to go to the server wherein my connector is installed. Okay, and this is how we would be doing a live troubleshooting. Okay, so I'm going to go to actions, Control Alt Delete, and then enter the password, and then I'm going to go to program files, Microsoft Intune, PFX request, continue. Right now you can see that the processing and the succeeded has a timestamp, while latest timestamp, while the failed did not. So what would have happened was, first the file comes to processing, and once the file is processed, the same file gets moved from here. So right now it is processing. Then if I open this file, let me show you. You can see that the thumbprint is missing. Okay, and the PFX blob is missing. Just keep a note of this. Just keep a mental note of this. Okay, now I'm going back to succeeded, and then I'm checking this. Okay, so ideally what should happen is the processing should be empty and it should get moved to the succeeded tab. Okay, the same file. So I'm just waiting on it. Probably we can go to the CA and track it from there if that's a good idea. All right, I'm going to the CA. And I am going to open up the MMC. Okay, let me just open up a new one. It's fine. MMC, yes. Let me do an add-in of certificate templates, certification authority, sorry. Finish, okay. I am going to track the certificates that have been issued. Okay. All right, let's just see what is it saying. All right. Okay, so it is issuing the certificates now. And if I double click on any certificate, let me do a refresh. 64. These are a whole bunch of certificates that I already had issued. So it's issuing the certificate. The certificate has to reach to the device. So we can go over here, do a refresh. Still has it. Okay. So guys, I'm still refreshing it, and I think this is the certificate I am looking for. Let me just double click it. It says that it has been issued to Tom and issued by Fourth Coffee CA, and okay, and let me just check the thumbprint of this certificate. The thumbprint of this certificate is ending with 5C. Okay, so now let me just go back to this machine and see, guys, as I was saying, failed processing succeeded, right? The processing had a file, therefore it has the latest timestamp. So as you can see, the latest time is 5:06 a.m. in this time zone. It has 5:04, so it had a file, therefore the folder has the latest timestamp, and that file got moved from processing to succeeded. So now this is the file I'm talking about. So if I double click that file, earlier if you open, when it was in processing, it did not have the thumbprint. Now it has the thumbprint, and it has the same thumbprint as the thumbprint of the certificate which has been issued by the CA. So yeah, I guess you can see in the background 0A5C, 0A5C. So it has the thumbprint, and it had to retry for 3 times. So first 2 times it didn't happen. It has the certificate hash as well. It has the device ID 81. Let me just see if the device ID is matching. All devices, yeah, there you go. This is the iOS device, and this is the device ID of the iOS device ending with 92A81. And if I go over here, the device ID is 92A81. So this I'm checking it in the PFX logs. I can see that it has been issued to this device. The thumbprint is there, the blob is there, and it has been issued by the CA. Okay, so this log also looks good. So now so as I said, the first thing we will be checking, following the same track there, the first thing we will be checking is whether the certificate has been issued from here or not to Tom. If it has been, then we will be checking this log, the PFX log, and the service connector log. So Intune connector SVC, and then logs, and then logs, and then the service connector logs. So let me just open up the below one, and in the service connector log, let me just do a control. I'm not using the service trace viewer. I'm just going to do a control F for Tom. Okay, so okay, let me just go up and see. Okay, all right. So if you guys remember, generates the service list, and then it generates the SAN list at one point of time, and then it processes it. And if you remember the flow in the service trace viewer which we saw, so over here it should have, okay, it's taking the Tom from customer. So let me just put in the entire Tom @nuggetlabs.on microsoft.com. Come on now. Okay, all right, I think I'll have to drag it to the right to show you guys. I know this is not the best way of viewing this. I just don't happen to have the service trace viewer with me right now. Therefore, I'm showing it this way. So what I'm trying to say is, in this service log, if you see, you will be able to see these things. First, you will be able to see issue PFX certificate generating SAN list. Then the SAN value is this, and then the issued certificate for the device ID. So I think I should be able to find something with the device ID. Let me just check there. I'm just trying to show you guys the flow. So let me get the device ID from this machine, from over here. The PFX logs had the device ID, right? So let me get the device ID from the PFX logs, and then I will be checking it over there, and then that should prove my point. So this is the device ID. I'm copying the device ID from here. I'm going back to Microsoft Intune, service connector, logs, and the below one. Let me just do a control F with this service ID. Okay. See, this is the one I'm talking about. Issued PFX certificate for, no, wait bro, wait. Issued PFX certificate for device ID this successfully. So this correlates with this one, issued PFX service for the device ID. Below, above it, we will be able to see one for SAN value and one for issuing. So this is actually the sequence that I'm trying to show. Okay, so now that it is over here, the next thing that we need to check is the company portal logs, which we'll have to extract from the device, and we can check it in the personal store of the phone as well. So I am going to now go into my iOS device and check in the personal store. Meanwhile, let me just finally check what is the deployment status. So this is the device. Device status is still errored out. Let me just check in the device whether I'm able to see the certificate or not. So yeah guys, that's the certificate, and I am able to see the certificate in the device as well. So let me see whether how good an idea this is. Let me just try to. Okay guys, I hope that you can see the device in my hand. So this is the device that has been enrolled. Now I am going into the settings of the device. So this is the settings, and I'm going to scroll down and go to general. So let's just see where is general. Yes, I'm going to select general over here, and then I am going to select the device management. So the device management, next to that it has the management profile. So all the devices which are enrolled to Intune are going to have this management profile. So I'm going to click on the management profile. This is the management profile that is there. I'm going to click on that, and then in more details it is actually going to show me the certificates that have come up. So I clicked on more details, I go all the way down, and the third last certificate is the one that has been issued to Tom. And if you see below that, it says it has been issued by 4th Coffee CA, which is my CA. So if I click on that cert and go all the way down, the SHA-1 is the thumbprint of the certificate. So you can see that the certificate has a thumbprint ending with starting with 33 and ending with 5C. Okay, and this is exactly the thumbprint of the certificate that was issued by the CA to this device. So let me guys go back to the CA, and this is the certificate thumbprint, and yeah, ending with 33, ending with starting with 33, ending with 5C, and that is exactly what we saw over there. Okay, so the certificate is successfully deployed to the iOS device, and we were able to track it. Let me I just assigned it to the Windows device as well. So the Windows profile was already made. All I did was I assigned it. So let me just check the Windows deployment now. Okay guys, I just refreshed my screen, and now I can see the new one ending with 7.2, and this is also issued to Tom, and it ends with let's just check the thumbprint, the same drill again, issued to Tom, and the thumbprint is ending with AD. Let's just check in the server wherein the connector is installed, and over here we can see that the processing time changed to 524, but it is empty because the file was there. Now it's here, and the 524 file, let's just check the thumbprint over here. It has the blob, and the thumbprint ends with AD and starts with 20921 20921. Okay, so that's the certificate was issued by the CA. This is the certificate which moved to the connector, then to the portal, and then finally to the device. So let's just go to the device, and let's just open up a MMC and see whether we are able to see that cert or not. So I am going to run MMC. Yes, and then I'm going to add a snap in. I'm going to see the certificates, the user account, finish. Okay, and then I'm going to go to the personal certificates, and over there, surely enough, I can see a certificate issued to Tom by the 4th Coffee CA, and the thumbprint of the certificate, let's just be double sure about that. The thumbprint of that certificate ends with AD, starts with 20. Where are you? Thumbprint of the certificate. Okay. 20 AD, and in the DC I have AD. Okay, so all the 3 certificates match with each other in the device, from the portal, as well as on the in the logs. So now if I go back to the portal and if I refresh, now that the device has got it installed, it should now report that it has been deployed as succeeded. So over here, my demo PKCS Windows is now succeeded, and my demo PKCS iOS should also be now succeeded. So this shows that both the certificates were issued successfully. We were now able to track from the CA in the log, service connector, PFX, in the device itself, company portal, as well as device. Okay, well, there's one more thing in case you guys are interested. I can show you that this got installed. So event EVE NT viewer, and then I have to open up, wait for the event viewer to open up, and then Windows logs, application and services logs. Come on now. Okay, I know my system is a tad bit slow, but let's just wait for it. So guys, finally my event viewer did open up. So we will have to go to event viewer, Windows, and then application and services logs, Microsoft, Windows, and then we'll have to expand the certificate one. So there is a node called certificate services client lifecycle user. We are looking at the user one, and then operational, and there I can see a log over there. So if I double click on it, it says that a new certificate has been installed. If I go to the details section, it should give me the thumbprint of the certificate as well. So I am waiting on the thumbprint. Okay, so the thumbprint of the certificate is the one ending with 0 AD. Okay, and I think it should match with 0 AD. That's the one we were looking at from the beginning, 20 AD, right? So this certificate is matching up from all the possible ways it could, right? So that's there, guys. That's how exactly we will be tracking it. So the same thing goes with Android, iOS, Windows as well. Just in case of Android, we need to deploy a trusted root certificate, and once the trusted root is delivered, then it needs to be linked with the PKCS profile that we're deploying. Okay, so a few tips and tricks for you guys before we wrap it up for the day. The PK, we already know now, PKCS, in PKCS the private key always travels with over the wire. And if we are using, I would suggest using a computer template, but if we are using a user template, then the permission needs to be provided on both the places. When I say both the places, I mean that, let me just quickly show you guys. This is my CA. So all right, you can go. Nope, this is not my CA, I'm sorry. This is my CA, is this is my CA. Okay, so if we are making a computer template, then just in the permissions of this template, the account needs to have permission. When I'm saying account, I'm talking about the system account or the service account, which is there in the connector. If we are using a user template, then we need to provide permissions on this user friendly name as well. So properties and then security, and then provide the service credentials. Okay. The account registering the connector to Azure must have an EMS license. I've already stated that. Everything is case sensitive. Please make sure whether that is the template name or the friendly name. Chain building is not needed in case of, when I say chain building, I mean that a trusted root profile is not needed in case of Windows and iOS. It's only needed in case of Android. But for chain building, it's needed in all three cases. So for deployment, it's not, but for chain building, I mean, if we were to use this PKCS certificate in the iOS device to authenticate to Wi-Fi, it would obviously need a trusted root as well. But for the deployment per se, it's not needed. Okay. The template needs to have the parameters which the cert needs. So obviously the template is something which is getting molded by the template. The cert is getting molded by the template. Therefore, the properties of the cert is going to be determined by the properties of the template. Okay. Important one. The account should have only one role assigned to it. So the account, you remember guys, when we were making, this is very important, when we were making a connection between the Intune service connector and the Azure portal, we did a sign in, right? That account which we use to sign in should have an EMS license, and it should have only one role assigned to it. If it has multiple roles, like if it is a Intune admin as well as a global admin, then in case of Scape, I have seen issues. In case of PKCS, I haven't. But still, I would say that if it's a global admin, please don't assign it an Intune admin as well. Assign it only one role. Android needed for chain building, we have already said that. One more thing, when we are going into the certification authority over here, I can see that there is one certification. There is one Intune connector. So when the device reaches back to the, if you remember the initial diagram, when the device reaches back to the Intune service and says that what do I do? The Intune service says that, okay, I will take it forward, and it takes the profile and goes to the Intune connector. This is from wherein it determines where to go. So if we have installed multiple Intune connectors for PKCS, Intune service for some reason gets confused and does not know which one to go to. So I would suggest that if there is only one connector installed, then that would be the ideal way of deploying it, because I have seen a couple of issues wherein I have configured multiple connectors, and during PKCS deployment it causes some issues because the Intune service doesn't know which connector to go to. Okay, so that is one more thing you need to keep in mind. Multiple connectors could be confusing. And Intune, I mean, in case of PKCS, there are not much moving parts, right? I mean, it's pretty much straightforward as compared to Scape. So I just wanted to show you guys one thing, and please don't laugh at me. So I am going into my certification authority, and let me show you guys something very interesting and very foolish, which I did. So I am going to open up the certification authority now. So this is my certification authority. Let me just, let me just open up my CA. I am going to, nope, this is my client, I'm sorry. I have to, this is my certification authority, okay. I'm going into the certificate templates, And let me, no, not certificate, issued certificates. And let me show you guys something. Uh, let me sort it by the request ID. Okay. All right. This is the request ID. All right. This is the request ID, and you can see that a certificate was issued to. This is not what I'm looking for. Okay, there is a user called Xmas, and he got a certificate issued, and then he got another 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 certificate issued for the same deployment. So if you check the time, you can see that I hope you guys can see the time. This is the certificate effective date, expiration date. There should be something called issued date as well. Okay, so the effective date is what when it was issued. So you can see that on the 25th, every minute the device got got 3 certificates. So you can see that 7:15, 7:15, 7:15, 7:15, it got 4 certificates at 7:15. 7:16 it got 5, 7:12 it got so many, 7:13, I mean it got so many certificates every minute. What happened was, I was very confused. I was like, what exactly is happening? I have made only one profile, enrolled only one device with the user Xmas. Why is the CA issuing so many certificates? I was very confused. Please keep in mind, guys, that once Intune connector has been installed, and even if it is active on the portal, after the installation of connector, you need to reboot the server. If the server is not rebooted for some reason, the CA keeps on issuing certificates, and the certificate reaches the connector, and in the connector, if you check the PFX logs, the logs are not going to have the thumbprint. Therefore, when that connector forwards that request to the Intune service, there is no certificate over there. So the Intune connector is actually not forwarding any certificate because the Intune connector is not getting any certificate. Therefore, the Intune service will keep on requesting for a new certificate, and the CA will keep on generating a new certificate. So guys, if you see for today as well, you can see that today also I got, using demo PKCS temp, this is the template that I was using today also, Tom got, this is the first cert, this is the second, this is the third, this is the fourth. You will see that the Tom also got so many certificates issued. So using the demo PKCS temp, we can see 1 2 3 4, I mean there are more than 15 certificates that were issued, because I did not reboot my server onto which the template was onto which the Intune connector was installed after installing it. So after checking that it is active, that is not the end of it. We need to reboot that machine. And once that machine was rebooted, after that everything became streamlined. So let me show you guys. I rebooted the machine sometime at around 5:35. So you can see that till, sorry, not 5:35, 4:35. So till 4:35 there were so many deployments. Can you see, guys? From 4:27 till 4:35 there are so many deployments every minute. Every minute there are 4 or 5 deployments, because the CA kept on deploying a certificate. The certificate did not reach the Intune connector because the Intune connector was actually not working, and when we were checking the PFX logs, it was not having the thumbprint. Once I rebooted the machine at 4:35, after that there were only 4 certificates that were issued. One was for the Android, one was for there were only 3 certificates issued. One was for Windows, one was for Android, and one was for iOS. And if I refresh it now, you won't see any other certificates now coming up. So the latest one is 2473 at 5:24 a.m. So between 5:24 and 5:43, no more certificates are being issued because Intune has got the certificate it was looking for. So what I'm trying to say, guys, is, and I wanted to bring this one up because I actually am working on a production issue wherein the CA kept on issuing it. The CA issued around 800 certificates in 24 hours. So next day when we checked the CA logs, we were very surprised to see that what exactly is going on. Why exactly is the CA issuing so many certificates, even though we had only one profile and one template? So when we checked the logs, we found in PFX that the thumbprint was missing, and therefore the certificate was not reaching the Intune connector. We reinstalled the connector and it worked. So that is something which I want you guys to keep in mind. If you are installing the connector, make sure you reboot it after the certificate has been deployed. I mean, after the connector has been installed. So connector install, reboot it, and then deploy the profiles. So I guess we covered most of the things that we wanted to. The only thing that we didn't do is we didn't analyze the company portal logs. So the fact that we are able to see the certificate in the iOS and in the Android device and in the Windows device pretty much says that we will be able to find the find the certificate thumbprint and the device ID in the company portal logs as well. So that's just pretty much it, guys. That's what I wanted to show you guys. I know it has been a very long demo, but I actually wanted to show it to you guys how exactly to do it live rather than just showing you the screenshot. Therefore I wanted to enroll my device in front of you guys, and I wanted to track the flow and show you guys how exactly it is supposed to span out. So that's pretty much it, guys. I hope that this has been informative to you. I would like to thank you for viewing. This is your friend Saurabh Sarkar signing off.